The next item of business is portfolio questions. Question number 1 is not lodged, and at question number 2 I call Faisal Chowdhury.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government how it is working to promote the benefits of volunteering in light of the recent research from Volunteer Scotland indicating that regular participation in volunteering can have well-being benefits worth approximately £1,000 per person per year.
Cabinet Secretary Shirley-Anne Somerville.
I welcome the publication of this research and recognise the positive impact that volunteering has on people's well-being. That is why Scotland's Volunteering Action Plan aims to create a Scotland where everyone can volunteer more often and throughout their lives. This 10-year plan, co-produced with the third sector, seeks to increase volunteering participation. And to support the plan, the Scottish Government provides direct funding to national and local intermediaries, including Volunteer Scotland. I am also pleased to announce that we will invest £1.1 million in Volunteering Support Fund this year to support people with experience barriers to volunteering.
Faisal Chowdhury.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that answer. With the concerning fall in volunteering participation, we must ensure volunteers are treated well and standards are upheld. Can the Cabinet Secretary advise how the Scottish Government is ensuring funding for third sector organisations supports volunteers' involvement that is aligned with the principles of the Volunteer Charter? And would she meet with me and volunteer organisations at the next CPG meeting, Volunteering Cross-Party Group, to discuss the issue facing the sector?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, the Scottish Government encourages the use of the Volunteer Charter that was developed by Volunteer Scotland and the STUC and sets out those 10 principles that provide the foundation of a good volunteer experience, exactly as the member mentions. He is quite right to point out both the value of volunteering to the individual, to the third sector and their communities, Presiding Officer, but it is right that it is done so in a way that respects and encourages and supports volunteers. And I'd be happy to meet with the member in whichever fashion he would like to be able to discuss these matters further.
Thank you. Question number 3, David Torrance.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what impact it believes the UK Government's spring statement will have on the provision of social security in Scotland.
Cabinet Secretary.
The UK Government's planned welfare reforms prioritise spending cuts over the welfare of sick and disabled people, and I am disappointed that they chose not to engage with the Scottish Government before announcing these reforms. Initial indications are that the changes will reduce the block grant funding we can expect to receive for social security benefits in 2029-30 by £408 million. Given the scope and the scale of these changes, I am urgently seeking clarification from the UK Government on their proposals and how this interacts with the devolved benefits.
David Torrance.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that answer. New analysis from the London School of Economics has found that UK Government could lift 700,000 children out of poverty overnight if we were to match Scotland's investment in social security. Poverty campaigners are crying out for its backward Labour Government to get its priorities right and look to Scotland instead of slashing benefits and putting renewed financial pressure on devolved budgets. Can the Cabinet Secretary provide an update on the communication with our UK counterparts so that our work to eradicate child poverty in Scotland is not undermined further by Westminster austerity?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, David Torrance is quite right to point out about the impact on the Scottish Government budget, but also the impact, most importantly, on individuals, disabled people and their carers. And that's why the first priority for the Scottish Government is to call on the UK Labour Government to scrap the changes that have been proposed, because austerity on the backs of disabled people and their carers, Presiding Officer, is disappointing at any time, but particularly from a UK Government. I would also say that I am deeply concerned about the direction of travel of the UK Government's Child Poverty Task Force, and I think its credibility has been drastically undermined by the changes announced. And I will continue to press for meetings with the UK Government, both at ministerial and official level, so we can discuss these issues and work with disabled people and their carers to ensure that there is no changes as has been planned by the UK Government.
Jeremy Balfour.
Thank you, President Officer. This will give us an opportunity here in Scotland to look at ADP and the criteria for ADP. Now, I understand there is a review going on and that will report in the autumn of this year. But does the Cabinet Secretary think this is an opportunity for us to have a whole look at the criteria for ADP and how it could work better for disabled people here in Scotland?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, as Jeremy Balfour has alluded to, Presiding Officer, there is the ADP review going on, independent of government, by Adele Harris, and the whole point of that was to ensure that ADP is examined and to see how it can be improved. But, Presiding Officer, that is made even more difficult when we are sitting facing cuts from the UK Government on PIP, which will impact on the Scottish Government's budget. The way that we have gone forward on how to deliver adult disability payment in the best possible fashion is to work with disabled people under that independent review. It's exactly what we're undertaking at the moment, or what the independent review is undertaking, and I look forward to their final report from Adele Harris in due course.
Question number 4, Sue Webber.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government how it monitors the effectiveness of Social Security Scotland.
Cabinet Secretary Shirley-Anne Somerville.
As an executive agency, Social Security Scotland is part of the Scottish Government. Oversight arrangements are in place through a portfolio accountable officer who scrutinises the performance and progress against aims and objectives. Social Security Scotland provides regular statistics and it publishes an annual report and accounts alongside a report from Audit Scotland. The Charter Measurement Framework provides evidence on delivery of the commitments in our Charter. I receive updates on performance from the Chief Executive, and the agency's effectiveness is clear. In its latest client survey, it shows 90% of people rated their experience as good or very good.
Sue Webber.
Thank you, Cabinet Secretary, for that response. The Scottish Fiscal Commission's budgetary forecasts highlight an ever-growing gap between the amount of money the SNP government receives to finance devolved benefits and the amount of money they actually spend. In 2023-24, the Scottish Government spent £198 million more on devolved benefits compared to what it actually received from the UK Government. In terms of performance and progress, Cabinet Secretary, in just 3 years, however, this gap is expected to triple to £619 million. So does the Cabinet Secretary believe that this is sustainable?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, the member raises a very important point about the sustainability of expenditure on social security. But can we be clear, as we talk about the numbers here, Presiding Officer, can we be clear actually about the numbers that the member has mentioned in our investment in social security, and it is an investment, goes to those on low incomes, disabled people, carers, and those who receive support through winter fuel benefits. So, as the member criticises the government for spending on low-income people, disabled people and carers, I wonder where exactly, Presiding Officer, she would like to see that money taken from, and what group of people the Scottish Conservatives would like to take people from. We spend more money because of the Scottish Child Payment. Is that what the member wants to see cut? We spend more money because we have additional payments to go to carers. Is that what the member would like to see cut? So, of course, we will work on the fiscal sustainability of the Scottish Government overall, including social security. But the Conservatives, as well as talking about big numbers, need to talk about people and actually be upfront with people when they're talking about cuts, that they're talking about cuts to some of the most vulnerable in our society.
Colette Stevenson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The Social Security Amendment Act passed by this Parliament last year is proof of the commitment to continually improve the Scottish social security system in action. While reserved UK benefits are about to be gutted by a fresh round of Westminster austerity, does the Cabinet Secretary agree that the Labour UK Government would do well to study Scotland's social security principles before they push any further with their damaging programme of welfare reforms?
On matters for which the Cabinet Secretary has responsibility.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. We are, as I've mentioned in previous answers, exceptionally concerned about the decisions of the UK Government because it will have a direct impact on our budget, and even for some reserved changes, such as around the work capability assessment, we simply do not know what the implications will be for devolved benefits at this moment in time. But I think this does go back to first principles, Presiding Officer. We see investment in our people as a genuine investment in supporting them, particularly some of the most vulnerable in our society. And it is disappointment that the UK Government seem to be viewing social security as the way to make savings to balance their own self-imposed fiscal rules.
Paul O'Kane.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. An important part of the effectiveness of Social Security Scotland is uptake of Scottish benefits, and the Cabinet Secretary knows that around 84,000 young Scots, that's around 15%, are not in work, education or training. And we know that at that very young age, the real lifelong effects that can have on people. I wonder if I can ask about the Scottish Government's Job Start payment, which is obviously designed to support people between the ages of 16 and 24 who are out of work and receiving low-income benefit for 6 months prior to finding employment. That has an uptake rate of just 21%, according to the latest statistics. So how confident is she that Social Security Scotland and that payment that is operating is being targeted to support people into employment and is actually being as effective as we need it to be?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, Paul O'Kane's quite right to point to the Job Start payment. It's an important part of our work on social security to support young people into employment. The uptake is a challenging one. He will, I hope, I'm sure, be aware that the statutory underpinning of Job Start payment is very different to the rest of social security, because actually we had to take specific work with the Department of Work and Pensions to allow us to have the Job Start payment at all. But that does make it exceptionally difficult and requires the UK Government to allow us to make changes to the eligibility. So that does make it challenging to increase the uptake by, for example, making it more simple to apply for, or to make the eligibility more simple for it to be able to be used by more people. But we are very keen to continue to work with the Department of Work and Pensions and indeed particularly job centres to ensure that young people who may be eligible are made aware of it and made aware of the timeframe that they have. And I think members all have, I hope, and also a responsibility and an opportunity to raise the awareness of this important benefit.
Question number 5, Murdo Fraser.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. My apologies for being a few minutes late for the start of this session. To ask the Scottish Government whether it will provide an update on what action it is taking to increase house building.
Cabinet Secretary.
We are progressing a series of strategic and targeted actions to support delivery of more homes at pace, with a particular focus on unlocking stalled sites and providing brokerage. Good progress is also being made across the 23 actions in the Government's Planning and Housing Emergency Delivery Plan, working in close collaboration with industry and other stakeholders. The 2025-26 budget includes £768 million for the Affordable Housing Supply Programme, helping tackle the housing emergency and contributing towards our target of 110,000 affordable homes by 2032. Since 2007, we have supported delivery of more than 136,000 affordable homes.
Murdo Fraser.
Can I thank the Cabinet Secretary for her response? The statistics do not paint an impressive picture. Starts and completions are down for the third successive year. Private sector starts are at their lowest level since 2013, and we have a cumulative shortfall of over 100,000 homes since 2008. Now, the industry body Homes for Scotland says urgent action is required on planning and regulatory reform to try and progress matters. And they raise, for example, the issue that 4 months on from the Scottish Government announcing a housing planning hub, there's been no tangible outcomes to date. So when are we actually going to see some progress being made?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, I had the pleasure of participating in the Housing to 2040 board a matter of weeks ago, and had the opportunity to discuss the planning hub with Homes for Scotland and other members of that board. At that time, we talked about the work that had gone on under the Chief Planner, particularly on the stalled sites and the brokerage, which is already paying dividends, Presiding Officer. The planning hub, as the member will be aware, also has a responsibility and a focus on offshore wind, but we are moving forward with work on the stalled sites, with work on brokerage, working with Homes for Scotland on individual sites to ensure that where there is something that can be done, it is being done. But I would also point the member to the number of planning applications that have been passed but are not being built on, and that's also something that we are working with Homes for Scotland to understand, because when a planning application has been passed, it is preferable that clearly we see that being built out, both for private development and also for the affordable homes that will be attached to that.
Colin Beattie.
I'm pleased to see that under SNP government, almost 137,000 social and affordable homes have been completed across Scotland, leading the way in the UK on the provision of warm, safe homes. Can the Minister confirm how many such homes have been completed in Midlothian?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, I'm sure Craig Hoy will be delighted if he's interested in the answer, because he didn't appear to be interested in the question, Presiding Officer, to know that from 2007 to the end of December 2024, the Affordable Housing Supply Programme has helped support the delivery of 3,532 completions across Midlothian, of which 70% are for social rent. Indeed, I had the pleasure of visiting the Colin Beattie's constituency very recently to meet tenants and meet Wheatley Homes to discuss the new development at Roswell. That was a fantastic example of the investment that the government has put through charitable bonds. That is seeing further developments taking place. It was a high-quality scheme that's been provided by that RSL, and I was very pleased to meet the tenants who are very much enjoying their new homes in the member's constituency.
Willie Rennie.
The big decline in new starts and completions is a clear indication that the previous leadership and policy on housing was part of the problem. Now, I've put forward some constructive amendments in the Housing Bill to encourage investment in housing. It's designed to try and accelerate house building in this housing emergency. Is the Cabinet Secretary open to supporting those amendments? Cabinet Secretary.
Well, as the member knows, I'm always happy to meet him to discuss his amendments and also the other proposals that he has brought forward on housing, and I thank him for the constructive way that we've had those discussions to date. Presiding Officer, I would assure him that, of course, both the Minister for Housing and I are taking a very close interest in the amendments that have been put forward, and I would be happy to meet him to further those discussions ahead of the votes in committee on that, and very happy if it's not just with the amendments but in the wider context of the housing emergency to see the shared endeavour that we can have across this chamber to find solutions.
Thank you. Question number 6, Craig Hoy.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government how much it projects to spend on social security by 2029-2030, including how much of this it estimates will arise from Barnett consequential funding.
Cabinet Secretary.
Based on the latest Scottish Fiscal Commission's forecast, the Scottish Government anticipates spending £8.9 billion on social security in 2029-30. Following the UK Government's spring statement, updated by block grant adjustments have been calculated by the HM Treasury. These show that the Scottish Government will now receive £408 million less funding through the BGA in 2029-30 as a result of the UK Government's announcements on welfare reform. The updated BGA forecasts show that £6.9 billion of the expenditure in 2029-30 will be covered by social security block grant adjustments, with the remainder being found from the Scottish Government budget.
Craig Hoy.
In a bid to plug what is set to become a £2 billion benefits-induced budget black hole, the Scottish Government says it will reform public services. This year, the SNP has set aside £30 million for an Invest to Save scheme. Can the Minister say in what areas the Government will be looking to make savings in the social security portfolio, and how much is she estimating to save as part of that process?
Cabinet Secretary.
Of course, Social Security Scotland and indeed all government is looking very seriously at what proposals we can take forward for the Invest to Save fund, and it's an exceptionally important piece of work. But for the reassurance of the member, I can point to the fact that when we compare the administration costs of Social Security Scotland when compared to the DWP taking away pensions, so looking at the benefits situation, we do see Social Security Scotland comparing very well on that, presiding officer, and that demonstrates you can have a robust system while having a humane system.
Karen Adam.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Investing in our people and communities through social security will be vital if we are to achieve the First Minister's central mission of eradicating child poverty in Scotland. As proven this week by the LSE when they found that the UK Government could cut child poverty by a sixth if they chose to match Scottish Government policies. Will the Cabinet Secretary lay out just how much Social Security Scotland payments could be worth to a low-income family as they raise a child, and how life-changing this investment could be?
Cabinet Secretary.
Can I thank Karen Adam for that question, because it again gets to the heart of the matter about how our investment in social security supports people here in Scotland. So the Scottish Government's 5 family payments, including the Scottish Child Payment, Best Start Foods and Best Start grants, could be worth over £10,000 by the time an eligible child turns 6 and around £25,000 by the time an eligible child turns 16. This compares to less than £2,000 for families in England and Wales, where support ends when an eligible child turns 4. This is in addition to wider support for families, including the child winter heating payment, carers allowance supplements and the ongoing mitigation of UK Government benefit caps, all of which is there to help put money in the pockets of the families who need it most.
Thank you. Question number 7 is not lodged. Question number 8, Liam MacArthur.
Thank you. To ask the Scottish Government how it plans to provide continuity of funding through the Rural and Islands Housing Fund.
Cabinet Secretary.
The demand-led £30 million Rural and Island Housing Fund continues to play an important role in providing support to community organisations, private landowners and others to deliver affordable homes where there is identified need, and complements the significant delivery in rural and island areas by councils and registered social landlords through our mainstream affordable housing supply programme. My officials continue to actively support a significant pipeline of projects within the Rural and Islands Housing Fund system to maximise as many projects to gain tender approval for delivery of affordable rural and island homes through the fund.
Liam MacArthur.
Can I thank the Cabinet Secretary for her response? She'll be aware that community development projects are key to tackling the housing crisis in rural and island areas. These projects rely heavily on the Rural and Islands Housing Fund, yet while councils and housing associations benefit from resource planning assumptions that provide at least some security across elections, no such guarantees apply to community development projects which may face a potential cliff edge next year. If they're forced to cease work during an election year, they lose valuable time, expertise and resources. Given the urgency of the housing crisis in communities like Orkney, development projects can't afford to see progress jeopardised next year. So will the Cabinet Secretary take steps to ensure continuity of that Rural and Island Housing Fund through 26 into 27?
Cabinet Secretary.
Can I thank Liam MacArthur for that question? He raises a very important point, and I want to provide him, I hope, with some reassurance that there has been no decision to close or end that fund. And as I mentioned in my original answer, there are a healthy number of pipeline projects which have already gone through initial expressions of interest stage and have been invited to progress. But I recognise the point that he makes to me, the importance of the types of projects that he raises, not just for his own constituency, for other parts of the country as well. And I will be happy to update him further in writing. And should he wish to have a meeting to discuss what more can be done, not just for community development projects, but for other areas and island communities that we might want to see further changes on, then I'd be more than happy to discuss any funding flexibilities or improvements that we can make, both in the scheme that he mentions and indeed in other areas.
Thank you. That concludes portfolio questions. I'll allow a moment or two for front benches to organise.